Yo guys, it's Haku here with an original One Piece theory that I thought of while taking notes on another video this morning, and that is the current arc with Big Mom and the Tea Party Wedding an homage to the story of Alice in Wonderland? Now, I came up with this when I was taking notes to do a video on Vito, a member of the Firetank Pirates. Now, I noticed that Vito had a lot of similarities to a lizard, and he had a lot of things that reminded me of Bill the Lizard from Alice in Wonderland, so that just sent me down a spiral of going over the entire original story and some more modern incarnations of it, and seeing how it really, I just discovered more and more of how it fit into the current One Piece storyline. Firstly, a lot of the current incarnations of Alice in Wonderland have a plot line with a arranged marriage storyline, and that fits in perfectly with the current arranged marriage storyline that Sanji has going on right now. And in the original story of Alice in Wonderland, cooks and cooking show up a lot. It makes a big part of the plot, so I think it's interesting that the cook of the crew would have a storyline having to do with Alice in Wonderland. In the second chapter of the original work, Alice starts to cry as a giant, and the flood caused by her tears brings out a bunch of talking animals that she talks to, and that's incredibly similar to Zoe. Zoe has the minks, who are a bunch of talking animals, and there are constant floods caused by Zoe, or Zianisha, I believe the minks called her, from the trunk, what do they call it? Eruption rain, I think. Now, Alice frightens the talking animals with stories of a ferocious cat, and that's the Cheshire Cat, and from what we've seen, they constantly build up Nekomamushi to be fierce, like just this fierce monster of a person, and he's a cat. And there is one thing I saw that somebody on a forum board did once bring up, that Nekomamushi looked like the Cheshire Cat. I only looked it up to make sure that nobody had thought of this before me, because I wouldn't want to steal anybody else's work. Now, Alice then comes upon a house, and I believe it's around chapter 4, and she has to shrink inside to get inside the house, but she ends up getting stuck because she grows while in it. And while that didn't exactly happen, shrinking and growing inside of a house is exactly what Capone's Shiro Shiro no Mi does. People shrink to go in them and grow when they come out. And the way that Alice gets out of this is with a character called Bill the Lizard. And Bill the Lizard was the character that I thought had a lot of similarities to Vito. Vito's tongue, his eyes with the glasses on, his giant hands, his guns, they all look lizard-like to me. And I thought that he reminded me of Bill the Lizard, and that's how I got all on this theory. Now, the next thing that happens is getting into stuff that may have not happened yet, where Alice gets advice from the smoking caterpillar. And the smoking caterpillar in this story, it could be Luffy going to talk to Zoe next and get advice from Zoe, or Sanji gets advice from Capone or Caesar, as Capone smokes, Caesar is made of gas. So there are things that I think could definitely still fit in, and through this entire story of Alice in Wonderland, there are things that fit in already through half of it, and things that could fit in through the second half. Because there's a story in the 6th chapter where there's a duchess's baby, and the baby is sneezing from pepper, and it eventually, when Alice holds it, it turns into a pig. So the way that this fits in is Lola. Lola is Big Mom, who, not really the Duchess in this story, but Oda wouldn't directly take the story. It's just it's taking parts in an homage like Oda does with a lot of works, both fictional and real-life events and people. So what I mean by it's Lola is she's probably Big Mom's daughter. I'm still very certain about that. And when you think about it, what happened when she was made into a zombie on Thriller Bark? She became a pig. Her zombie was a pig. And the only way to cure the zombies was with salt. Salt, pepper. That isn't exactly how she was cured. She was cured when Moria ripped out the shadows from all the zombies to become big, buff Shadow Moria. But the point is, that the pig similarity alone is enough for me to relate the two things. Now then we get into the more confusing part that could mean anything at this point, and that's the introduction of the March Hare and Mad Hatter. At this point, March Hare, who knows, but we did get introduced to Carrot, who, since she's guiding them in a way, could also be like the White Rabbit, but Carrot may be this version of the March Hare, and the Mad Hatter could be anyone. It could be Caesar's pretty crazy. Tamago has a hat that's a teacup that he's constantly drinking from, and that's very Mad Hatter-esque. Or the Mad Hatter could just refer to Brook or Luffy, because Luffy is Straw Hat Luffy, so maybe one of them break in against Big Mom with Carrot at one point, and that's how we're getting this. Another thing that I'm pretty sure isn't going to happen, but I thought was like the first thing that popped into my head, is the Mad Hatter said, "How's a raven like a writing desk?" And Sabo always wears the little top hat, and he has the raven guy that we've seen in the Revolutionaries with him. Now the next thing that I think is probably one of the biggest parts is they have the Mad Tea Party. And what does Big Mom call all of her events? And this one's a wedding. She calls it a tea party. Now I think when Sanji gets there and they're doing this wedding, things are going to go mad. It's not going to be exactly like the Alice in Wonderland story, but it's taking a little bit of influence from that. And then we meet the violent Queen of Hearts, who is obviously Big Mom in the One Piece storyline. Big Mom's even got the little heart-shaped lips, and a lot of her family does. So the heart kind of theme could go along with it. Well, I say a lot of her family does, assuming that a lot of the people we think are her daughters are actually her daughters. Now then, Alice is introduced to the Griffin and the Mock Turtle. And the Mock Turtle laments on how it used to be a real turtle. And both of those characters kind of remind me of Peckham's, who was a member of Big Mom's crew. Peckham's is lion, and Griffins are part lion, and he's turtle, like the Mock Turtle, who isn't really a real turtle. So I think it's interesting that a lot of Big Mom's crew and a lot of the characters we're finding out about in Zoe, like the Minks, are very similar to characters from Alice in Wonderland. Now next is the one thing that I have absolutely nothing to correlate it to, I have no clue, which is the Lobster Quadrille and Trial, which if I would have to just take a shot in the dark at anything, maybe it's something to do with Sanji's Only Alive Wanted poster. Now the King of Hearts presides over the trial, and I think the King of Hearts sort of homage character is going to be Sanji's father. Sanji's father is the person, I'm assuming, who both set up the wedding and negotiated for him to have the Only Alive bounty poster. Now I'm still thinking he's some sort of big merchant, maybe, like the liquor steal baron. I still think that. And he used his economic connections with both the world government and Big Mom to set up the wedding and get the Only Alive Wanted poster. Now, in this trial, there's a jury of the animals. And I think that might mean in the One Piece story that the minks are going to go and help. Maybe Peckham's takes some of the minks, like Nekomamushi and Beppo, some of the minks that are allied with them, and they go to help the Straw Hats get Sanji back because they owe them, and owe Sanji in particular. Now the way the Alice in Wonderland story ends is going to be completely different than the way this ends. It ends with Alice being awoken by her sister. Now I think this could relate to a fight breaks out and Sanji is saved by his brother. Maybe not physical bloodline brother, but it may mean that this is when Luffy comes in with his allies and saves Sanji. Because Luffy is his nakama, his crewmate, they're like brothers. Or perhaps maybe his brother will come help. I think it would be hilarious if just Scrub Lord Bellamy comes in with the punch and saves Sanji. I think it'd be hilarious because Bellamy's been shown to us as a weak character, just constantly getting beaten by Luffy, but we know that he had a high bounty, and from the things that the people at Dressrosa said that he had done, he's a strong and powerful pirate. He knows what he's doing as a pirate, he's just no Luffy. So in the end, I do think this Zoe into Big Mom arc is following loosely the plot of Alice in Wonderland. I think that Sanji is very similar to Alice in this. Nekomamushi, the Cheshire Cat, Vito, Bill the Lizard, Capone the House, and perhaps even the Caterpillar as well. Peckham's the Mock Turtle, Lola the Duchess's baby, the Queen of Hearts Big Mom, and the King of Hearts Sanji's father, and the Mad Hatter, who could have been a number of characters we've seen or are yet to see. So I think this theory has a lot of support just from what we've seen in the arc so far. And I know that I'm a new channel, I'm not very big, so I would love it if you guys told me your thoughts, or if more YouTubers could go and if they give their thoughts on this. I think that it's something worth hearing. So tell me what you guys think. Leave a like if you want to, subscribe if you want, follow on Twitter for all the updates. I'll have at least one video up a day, and I thank you guys all for your continued support, and I will see you guys around.